Ever feel like you're right on the edge of finding the next big thing, but you just need that roadmap? You've shared some really fascinating stuff about investing in East Bali, focusing on Seraya, Candidasa, and Ahmed. Okay, let's dig into this. What's really grabbing me is this idea of looking beyond the super busy south of Bali.
Yeah, exactly. That shift is what's so interesting. For you, looking at Bali investment, Karangasem Regency out east, it's a really compelling alternative. Think about it compared to Badung or Gianyar, which are pretty saturated now. We're talking lower entry costs potentially, and this amazing natural setting you've got Mount Agung, those incredible temples like Besaki, Lempuying, plus the black sand beaches, the cliffs. It's quite different.
It really does feel like Bali's next frontier, maybe. And for you listening, our mission here is to really compare the investment potential, specifically beachfront versus cliffront land in Seraya, Candidasa, and Ahmed. We'll be using that Seraya investment potential analysis report you shared.
Yeah.
Trying to pull out the key stuff on like ROI, the risks, the real risks, and what makes each spot unique.
Exactly. And just so you know where this is coming from, the analysis uses quite a mix of sources. There's real estate market data, from websites, local agents, Bali Realty, exotic property, names like that.
Sure.
Some historical price info, though. We'll see. It's a bit patchy in places. Then there's infrastructure checks, tourism stats, how easy it is to get there from the airport.
Travel times and all that.
Yeah, travel times, future plans, like the Ahmed port, if that happens, road upgrades, and crucially, the local rules. Karangasem's spatial plan, that PERBUP number 5 from 2024, and the coastal building rules. It's quite detailed.
Got it. Okay, so let's start our deep dive with Seraya. What are the land prices telling us there? It feels like the emerging one.
That's a good way to put it. Seraya's market is definitely much earlier stage than the others, so finding solid data is trickier.
Right.
But the report gives us pointers, like Jasri, that's near Candidasa, but kind of borders Seraya beachfront freehold, is maybe IDR 135 to 155 million per R. But interesting details, some mention extra access fees.
Access fees. Okay, that's a flag right there. Something you'd need to nail down.
Absolutely. A hidden cost, potentially. Then leasehold in Jathri, 30 years, is about IDR 100 million per R.
Okay.
Move over to Seraya Cliffront, sometimes they call it near Ahmed. Freehold is roughly IDR 180 million per R. That's about, USD 11,600. But then the Seraya coast area, also Seraya beachfront freehold, jumps up quite a bit. Around IDR 320 million per R. That's over 20 grand US.
Wow, big difference just within Seraya.
It is, and online portals show a real mix, maybe 180 up to 250 million per R. You even see huge plots listed for like 60 billion IDR. So yeah, location size, massive variability.
That's a huge range. What about looking back? Are there historical price trends for Seraya? Can we see if it's been appreciating?
That's the tricky part. The report basically says there isn't much specific historical data for Seraya, so you have to infer a bit. Given it's been underdeveloped, prices were probably, pretty low historically. The appreciation we might be seeing now is likely recent and maybe speculative.
Speculative how? Like based on future hopes?
Kind of. Look at Ahmed as a comparison point the report uses. Leasehold there apparently jumped 175% between 2020 and 2024. Huge.
Wow.
So that shows the potential in East Bali, but Seraya, it hasn't really proven that kind of growth yet. So for you, thinking about Seraya, it's about getting in early, maybe, but accepting that uncertainty, it's banking on future growth.
Understood. So it's more of a bet on the future.
Yeah.
Let's talk practicalities then. The infrastructure needed to actually build or run a place. What's the situation on the ground in Seraya?
Infrastructure is. Yeah, it's a really critical point for Seraya. Once you're off the main bypass road, you're on these regional local roads. The coast road is beautiful, no doubt, but it's narrow.
Right. Could be tricky for access.
Could be. And those access fees mentioned in Jasri, that hints at potential issues getting to specific plots, too. There's talk of a Seraya ring road long-term, but, that's long-term.
And the basics. Power, water, internet. Those essentials.
Power reliability. Probably fair to poor is the assessment. Water is a bigger one. It's flagged as poor or challenging. Limited natural sources.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you're relying on the regional company, PDAM, or maybe community systems, PAMBEs. You might well need your own solution, like a deep well. Waste management, likely basic, so probably private arrangements needed.
Okay.
And internet seems like a major hurdle. Fiber, probably not widely available, if at all. Mobile data exists, telecom cells usually best, but coverage and speed could be patchy. So yeah, connectivity, it looks like a real challenge.
So investors need to budget for potentially big infrastructure costs themselves.
That's a key takeaway, I think. You need to be prepared for potentially significant upfront investment and ongoing hassle just for the basics in Seraya.
That definitely paints a picture of a place still feeling quite raw in some ways. How does that connect with who's actually visiting Seraya now? What's the tourism scene like?
Well, given that infrastructure picture, the visitors are likely those really seeking culture, nature, quiet. Maybe people visiting Taman Ujung specifically.
Water Palace, right?
Yeah, that's the big draw nearby.
No.
And the scenic drive itself. Plus, it's a base for other Karangasem sites. But development-wise, it's the least developed of the three. Mostly small places, guest houses, homestays.
Which could be an opportunity, I guess.
Exactly. That lack of big hotels means there's maybe space for something unique, boutique, maybe eco-focused, something that fits that raw feel.
So accessibility keeps coming up. How long does it actually take to get to Seraya from Denpasar Airport?
The estimate is around 2.5 to 3 hours. You take the bypass for a good chunk, then onto those regional roads we talked about.
Okay, not insignificant.
No. But the future infrastructure plans could really change that. That Ahmed Port upgrade, if it happens, plus planned road improvements extending the bypass, that Seraya Ring Road idea, better connecting roads between regions.
So watching those projects is key for a Seraya investor.
Absolutely critical. They could be huge catalysts for growth and value if they materialize. Big ifs sometimes, but potentially transformative.
Okay, let's switch gears to the rules and regulations. Zoning, coastal stuff. What are the big things to watch out for in Seraya?
Right. This is where you absolutely need your homework done. Due diligence is non-negotiable. First, zoning. You have to check everything against that local regulation, PERBUP number 5, 2024, and the actual zoning maps.
And for tourism, you need that pink zone.
Almost certainly, yes. For commercial tourist accommodation, you'll likely need land-zoned pariwisata or tourism. Getting that confirmed is step 1. Then, coastal setback.
The 100-meter rule.
That's the general guideline, 100 meters from the high tide mark. But Karangasem regs might allow some conditional tourism building inside that zone. But there are strict criteria, building coverage limits, height limits, setbacks from public paths.
Complicated.
It is. And for cliff-front land, you'll definitely need a geotechnical survey, assessing stability, figuring out safe building lines. It's essential.
And for foreign investors, the usual options apply. Leasehold.
Yeah, the standard routes, leasehold, Haksewa, maybe Hakpakai to use, or setting up a foreign investment company, a PT, PMA, to get Hakgunabengunan right to build. You definitely need good local legal advice to navigate all this properly.
Okay, let's try and pull the Seraya threads together, synthesizing this.
Yeah.
What's the bottom line on investment potential? ROI, risks, unique selling point.
Okay, so ROI, currently rental yields are probably low. Makes sense, tourism isn't fully developed yet. But the future potential could be high, but it really hangs on those infrastructure improvements and getting more tourists there. Capital appreciation potential. High, but definitely speculative at this point.
And the risks? Sounds like quite a few.
They are significant, yeah. Those big infrastructure gaps, water, internet especially, accessibility challenges right now. Tourism demands is the least proven of the three areas, so that's higher market risk. Regulatory hoops to jump through, needing really thorough checking. And environmental risks, too. Coastal erosion, water scarcity aren't abstract issues there.
Okay, so with all those risks, what is the unique appeal of Seraya? Why would someone choose it?
Well, for the right person, it's compelling. You might find lower entry prices, especially for land that isn't absolute prime beachfront compared to Candidasa or Ahmed.
Okay.
There's this real sense of untapped potential, authenticity. You could create something truly unique, boutique, eco-cultural, that taps into that real Bali feeling people are sometimes searching for. The natural beauty, the quiet, those are big draws.
And the potential upside from future infrastructure.
Huge leverage, yeah. If those projects land, the value could jump significantly. So who's it for? Probably long-term investors, people with a high tolerance for risk, really focused on that potential capital growth. And crucially, people willing to actively tackle the infrastructure issues and help build the tourism market there. It's not passive.
That's a really clear picture of Seraya. High risk, high potential reward, definitely needs hands-on effort.
Yeah.
Okay, let's contrast that now. Moving south of it to Candidasa, what's the investment vibe there?
Candidasa feels much more established. Less volatile, maybe. Price-wise, prime beachfront is quite a bit higher. Think around IDR 495 million per odd.
Whoa, yeah, big jump from some of the Seraya prices.
Definitely. But you can find more affordable stuff. Hillside plots, maybe with an ocean view, could be around IDR 75 million per hour. And remember Jasri near Candidasa. Beachfront there was also around 100 million.
Right.
And there are leasehold options too, like Cliffront near Virgin Beach in the Pink Zone was quoted around IDR 25 million per hour per year. So more of a spread in prices. Different entry points exist.
So more established means more stable prices historically too, probably.
Likely, yeah. Again, the report doesn't give specific historical data for Candidasa either, but you'd assume growth has been more gradual and steady. It's had tourism for longer. Less of that potential rocket-like appreciation maybe, but also less speculative risk perhaps.
And infrastructure-wise.
Yeah.
Sounds like it should be better than Seraya.
Generally, yes. Much better, probably. Main road access is good, right near the bypass. Local roads, likely okay. Power, fair to good. Water, fair moderate, maybe better sources nearby. Waste management, likely more organized.
Internet, that's a big one.
Yeah, fiber internet is likely available in the main tourist strips. Mobile coverage should be generally good, too. So overall, yeah, more robust infrastructure, fewer immediate headaches for a developer compared to Seraya, you'd think.
Makes sense. So who's typically visiting Candidasa? What's the tourism scene feel like?
It tends to draw people looking for relaxation, families maybe, perhaps older tourists too. People wanting a quieter Bali experience than the south, but with amenities.
What are the main draws?
Well, the Candidasa Lagoon itself. Easy access to Padang Bai for boats to the Gillies or Lombok. Some snorkeling, diving nearby. Tenganan Village, the traditional Aga village, is close. Water palaces, too. And Virgin Beach is popular.
And the development style.
It's got a mix, hotels, villas, restaurants. It's established. Some places might feel a little dated, maybe, compared to brand new developments elsewhere. But the infrastructure is there.
And getting there. Easier than Seraya.
Should be, yeah. Closer to the airport, maybe 1.5 to 2.5 hours travel time, using that main bypass. It definitely benefits from the newer sections of the bypass heading east.
Okay. And regulatory stuff in Candidasa. Any specific call-outs?
Well, we know the pink zone for tourism exists. Virgin Beach was mentioned as an example. The general rules on setbacks, foreign ownership still apply, of course. But because it's more developed, maybe there's, a bit more clarity or precedent in how those rules are applied compared to somewhere like Seraya where things might still be evolving.
Right, less ambiguity perhaps. So, summing up Candidasa for our listener, what's the investment potential synthesis?
It looks like a more moderate, stable option. You're probably looking at more predictable capital appreciation, maybe not as explosive as the potential in Seraya, but steadier. Rental yields likely more stable, too.
Lower risk profile overall?
Seems like it, yeah, mainly because the infrastructure is better and the tourism market is established. The flip side is the market might be less dynamic, less potential for that really rapid growth. So it probably suits investors with a more moderate risk appetite, people who value stability and having amenities already in place.
Okay, that makes sense. Seraya, high risk reward frontier. Candidasa, stable, established, moderate. Now let's head north up the coast to Ahmed. Known for diving, right?
Yeah.
What's the picture there?
Yeah, Ahmed's profile is really distinct, heavily influenced by that diving and snorkeling reputation. Land prices. Beachfront seems pretty consistently around IDR 200 to 220 million per hour. Some prime spots might push towards 300 million.
So generally higher than Seraya's baseline, but maybe not as high as prime Candidasa beachfront.
Kind of in between, yeah. But if you look just slightly off the beach, near beach, prices drop significantly. Maybe IDR 48 million per hour. And leasehold is popular there too. Ocean or mountain view plots, like in Bunutan, were around IDR 4.5 million per hour per year.
And we mentioned Ahmed's crazy leasehold appreciation earlier.
Yeah, that 175% jump between 2020 and 2024. It's really dramatic. And the report suggests projections for continued growth based on that strong diving niche.
That's pretty compelling growth. But how's the infrastructure holding up? Can it support that level of activity?
It's a bit of a mixed bag. Kind of sits between Seraya and Candidasa again. Main road access is okay, fair, but local roads leading off can be variable quality.
And utilities?
Power is likely fair to poor, similar maybe to Seraya in places. Water is definitely still a challenge. Scarcity is a known issue in Ahmed. Waste management, probably pretty basic. Internet. Limited fiber, mobile data exist, but speeds are often reported as slower than elsewhere.
So even with strong tourism, there are still infrastructure gaps to deal with.
Definitely. It's not as challenging as Seraya might be, but it's not as smooth as Candidasa either. Investors still need to factor in potential infrastructure costs or limitations.
Okay. And the tourism scene itself, who's going to Emid?
It's overwhelmingly divers and snorkelers,
Hmm.
people seeking activities, backpackers too. It's less about just beach lounging. The draws are world-class dive sites. The USS Liberty wreck is the famous one, the Japanese wreck too, and those amazing Mount Agung views.
And development feels different too.
Yeah, it's more spread out along the coast, lots of dive resorts, smaller guest houses, villas dotted around. It still has quite a rustic village feel in many parts. Although
Mm.
there are some whispers about overdevelopment becoming a concern in certain spots.
Interesting. And getting to Emid, it's further up the coast.
Yeah, access is more challenging than Candidasa, maybe similar, slightly longer than Seraya, around 2.5 to 3.5 hours from the airport, often on quite winding roads.
But the Emid port upgrade,
Yeah,
that's the potential game changer there.
potentially huge, yes, if it happens. The report notes its status seems a bit uncertain right now, but if that port were upgraded for faster boat access, it could drastically change things. Definitely something investors there are watching closely.
Okay. And regulations in Emid, specific zoning for tourism.
Yes, pink zone designation exists, specifically called Akomodasi Parisada tourism accommodation. So it's clearly zoned for that primary purpose. The usual Karangasem rules on setbacks, ownership, etc. still apply.
Right. So wrapping up Emid, investment potential,
Yeah.
opportunities, challenges.
Okay. AMED looks particularly strong for potential rental yields. High occupancy seems common because of that dedicated diving crowd. Capital appreciation potential is also high lifts. Look at those recent trends.
But the risks.
Moderate infrastructure risks, definitely. And the investment is quite tied to that diving niche continuing to thrive. Plus, the uncertainty around the Amid Port project is a factor.
So who does Emid suit best?
Probably investors comfortable with focusing on a niche market, people looking for strong rental income and still hoping for good growth. And importantly, folks willing to navigate those existing infrastructure issues.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot of ground. Seraya, Candidasa, Ahmed. 3 quite different flavors of East Bali.
Yeah.
So for you, our listener, considering putting money down here,
Mhm.
what are the big strategic things to weigh up now?
I think number one, absolutely number one, is your own risk tolerance. It has to be. We've seen the spectrum. Seraya is higher risk, potential high reward. Candidasa is more moderate, stable. IMID offers that growth potential, but tied to its niche.
Right.
And then regardless of where you're leaning, that due diligence point cannot be stressed enough. Especially in Seraya, maybe.
Right.
You have to verify zoning, confirm those coastal setbacks with the right government departments, physically check the infrastructure on site.
Don't just trust the listing photos.
Exactly. Check legal titles, access roads, use a good notary, and keep tracking those big projects, the Ahmed Port, road upgrades. It can really shift the landscape.
And does the type of development matter? Should you build the same thing in all 3 places?
Definitely not, ideally. Your strategy should really match the place's character. Seraya feels right for something boutique, maybe eco-friendly, cultural, playing to its strengths.
Right.
Candidasa, maybe more mid-range to upscale, focusing on relaxation, leveraging the existing amenities. Ahmed, obviously something geared towards divers makes a lot of sense, or complementing that scene.
But sustainability is key everywhere.
Increasingly so, yeah. Sustainable design, eco-conscious practices. That's becoming a big draw for many travelers across the board. It's smart planning anyway.
Okay, so pulling it all together for you listening, East Bali clearly has some really interesting investment potential, way beyond the usual southern hotspots. But as we've really dug into, you need that nuanced view. Each area, Seraya, Candidasa, Ahmed, has its own distinct personality, its own risks, its own potential rewards.
Exactly. Seraya is that frontier, high stakes, maybe high potential. Candidasa offers stability. Ahmed gives you that niche-driven growth.
Which really leads to the final thought, doesn't it?
I think so. It's a question for you to really mull over. Considering these very different profiles, Seraya's pioneering feel, Candidasa's steady rhythm, Ahmed's dive focus, and thinking about your own investment goals, your own comfort with risk. Which one of these East Bali landscapes sparks the most compelling vision for you?
And what other questions pop up now as you think about maybe taking that deeper plunge?
Yeah.
Something definitely to reflect on.